Harlow House in Los Angeles, California. Los Angeles is one of the best destinations for haunted house hunting, and this Bavarian-style home in Beverly Hills has a particularly gruesome history. In 1932, it was home to the iconic actress Jean Harlow and her abusive husband, Paul Byrne, who shot himself in the head while standing in front of the mirror. Their butler discovered him and called MGM instead of the police, so there were tons of rumors that it wasn't actually suicide. Many suspected Byrne's ex-girlfriend, a suspicion exacerbated by her jumping off a boat to her death a couple days later. Jean moved out after his death, but died only a few years later at the age of 26. But wait, it gets creepier. In 1963, celebrity hairstylist Jay Sebring bought the home and lived there with his girlfriend, Sharon Tate, until she left him for Roman Polanski. They were still friends, and remained so until both of them were murdered by the Charles Manson cult. Tate was the same age as Harlow when she passed, but back to when the couple lived in the Harlow house. Tate told several friends of creepy occurrences in the home, and even mentioned it in interviews. For example, once, when she was sleeping in the master bedroom alone, she saw a creepy little man. Her friend say she believed it to be Paul Byrne's ghost. She was so freaked out when she saw the alleged ghost that she ran out of the room, and then saw a hanging shadowy corpse with its throat slit in the hallway. There are also stories about 2 other people dying in the swimming pool over the years. Hotel Monte Vista in Flagstaff, Arizona. The Hotel Monte Vista has numerous paranormal guests they can't get rid of. The hotel, which opened as the Community Hotel in 1927, named after the townspeople who helped raise the funds for its construction, has a history of underground opium dens, speakeasies, and gambling. Today, the hotel is known for the paranormal activity that haunts some of the rooms and halls. Guests who have stayed in room 220 have experienced the TV changing channels on its own accord, and some have said they felt cold hands touching them in their sleep. There's also reportedly a phantom bellboy who knocks on doors and announces room service, but when guests get to the door, no one's there. One of the more popular and possibly most disturbing encounters is the sound of an infant crying in the basement. The hotel website reads, "Staff have found themselves running upstairs to escape the sound of the cries. Though the sounds are very real to those who hear them, there has been no information that has explained the phenomenon." Hotel Cecil in Los Angeles, California. More cursed than haunted. Downtown LA's Hotel Cecil got such a bad rap that it actually changed its name to Stay on Main. If you're a true crime and paranormal super fan, you've likely already heard of it. Where to begin? So many bad things have happened here, there's literally an entire Wikipedia page dedicated to its violent history. The first recorded death by suicide is in 1931, followed by a long string of similar deaths in 1932, 1934, 1937, 1938, 1939, and 1940. At some point in the 30s, one man was pinned to the exterior wall by a truck. A woman murdered her newborn in the building in 1944, and the pattern of suicides continued into the 60s. In 1962, a woman jumped from the 9th floor window and landed on a pedestrian, killing them both. It's worth noting that 2 of the women who died by suicide apparently jumped while their husbands were asleep in the room. In 1964, tenant Goldie Osgood was brutally murdered, a crime which has remained unsolved. Next, in the 80s, the infamous serial killer Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker, stayed at the hotel, and in the 1990s, Austrian serial killer Jack Unterweger lived there. Other weird things kept happening, but the weirdest is definitely the disappearance and death of 21-year-old traveler Alyssa Lamb. A few weeks after Lamb went missing, her body was discovered in the rooftop water tank after visitors and tenants complained about a funky taste. They later found odd footage of her in the elevator from the night of her disappearance. It's difficult to make out what she's doing. It looks like she's either playing hide and seek with someone outside the elevator, or she's frightened and attempting to hide from someone, but the doors won't seem to shut. Authorities ruled the death accidental drowning, but because you need a key to access the roof, many suspect foul play. S.K. Pierce House. Massachusetts has no shortage of haunted mansions, it seems, and the S.K. Pierce Victorian is one of the state's eeriest. The original occupant, Sylvester Pierce, had just started making his fortune in the furniture business when he built this home for himself, his son, and his wife, Susan. As a man about town, he hosted many notable people in his 7,000-square-foot home throughout the years, including President Calvin Coolidge, Bette Davis, and Norman Rockwell. Only a week after moving into the home, Susan fell ill and passed away from a mysterious bacterial disease. A year later, he remained Ellen, a woman 30 years his junior, and had 2 more children. Years later, when both Sylvester and Ellen had passed away, his sons embarked on a fiery feud about the property as well as the furniture company, but the Great Depression swept in and made their choice easier since the company basically went bankrupt. The youngest son, Edward, was given control of the home when he turned it into a boarding house. It became a hotspot for illicit activities, including the murders and sudden, tragic deaths of several occupants, according to local lore. As a result of these violent ends, guests have reported every kind of haunting imaginable, from visions of apparitions to flying objects, disembodied sounds, pressure, temperature drops, and more. Merchant House Museum in New York. Seeing as it's the only preserved and intact family home from the 19th century in all of New York City, it makes sense that this house has also been the source and subject of many ghost stories. The Treadwell family lived here for over 100 years, and the last family occupant was Gertrude, the youngest daughter, who died in the home in 1933. Staff, visitors, and even passerby say they experience weird disembodied things here. Don't buy it. Take a candlelit ghost tour of the museum to decide for yourself. And even if you don't catch an apparition out the corner of your eye or hear children playing on floorboards in empty rooms, you'll at least get the sense that you're intruding on someone else's space in a completely different time, since it's virtually the same as was when Gertrude died. Las Vegas Murder Mansion in Los Angeles, California. During the mid-20th century, this large Las Vegas home was the seemingly happy home of Dr. Harold Perelson and his family, until the horrific night of December 6, 1959, when he murdered his wife in her sleep with a ball-peen hammer and attempted to murder his 3 children before drinking acid to kill himself. Fortunately, his eldest daughter let out a scream when he struck her in the head, waking up the younger children, who then walked into the hallway to find out what was going on. During the commotion, they were all able to flee. Before the murder-suicide, he was a successful doctor who invented a new type of syringe after investing most of money into its research and production, but he got screwed out of the rights, leading investigators to blame financial problems. Other creepy details include a passage of Dante's Divine Comedy left open on his bedside table. 2 years later, it was sold to the Enriquez family, who used it as storage unit, and their son continued to do so until he sold it to a couple in 2016 who had plans to fix it up. But it seems to have scared them off, because within a few years it's on the market again. Photographers also report a feeling of needing to run away from the house when they get close up to it. The Villisca Axe Murder House in Villisca, Iowa. On June 10, 1912, Josiah and Sarah Moore were bludgeoned to death inside of their home in Villisca, Iowa. Their 4 children and 2 friends who were spending the night were also killed, and to this day, the crime remains unsolved. Their home is considered one of the most haunted houses in the country, and guests are drawn to it. People even pay $400 plus to stay for one night. Tours have been cut short by children's voices, falling lamps, moving ladders, and flying objects, says the Villisca Axe Murder House website. And, in 2014, a paranormal investigator stabbed himself after spending the night. Skeptics have left believers, adds the website. Mudhouse Mansion. Located in Fairfield County, Ohio, until recently, the Mudhouse Mansion has a bad reputation. Nobody can seem to agree on when it was built, but it dates back sometime between the 1840s and 1900. Unlike the other abandoned mansions on this list, you sadly can no longer visit it, as the home was demolished in 2015 after not being occupied since the 1930s. The last resident, at least legally speaking, was Lulu Hartman Mast, and the current owner of the property is her relative Jean Mast. Because there's so little information about who lived here and when, and because abandoned places tend to ignite the dark side of the imagination, there are tons of legends around alleged atrocities occurring and consequent hauntings. The sources don't seem to be very credible. The Lemp Mansion in St. Louis, Missouri. Starting strong with a very scary house, the Lemp Mansion in St. Louis, which is known to be one of the most haunted places in America due to a tragic history. The 33-room home was built in the 1860s by William Lemp, a successful brewery owner who ended up killing himself in 1904 after the youngest of his 4 sons, Frederick, died. A few years later, his wife also died of cancer in the house. Then, in 1922, William Lemp Jr., shoot himself in the same room William Sr. killed himself. As if that weren't enough tragedy for one place, in 1949, Charles Lemp, William's third son, shoot his dog in the basement of the home, and then killed himself in his room. That same year, the house was sold and transformed into a boarding house, where reports of hauntings began. According to Destination America, witnesses have experienced burning sensations and slamming doors today. The Lemp Mansion is a restaurant and inn that also holds events. On Sunday night, the inn hosts a murder mystery dinner. 455A Sackett Street. You never hear as much about haunted apartments as haunted houses, which is strange considering that apartments have much more turnover, and therefore a higher likelihood of something, or someone, evil having lived there before you move in. That was definitely the case with 455A Sackett Street in Brooklyn. One woman who grew up there writes about her first-hand experiences, including unexplained fires, seriously bad energy, family tragedies, personal suffering, and, here's the kicker, the body of a child discovered in the wall after several suspicious sightings of a similar-looking shadow child in the mirror. Commenters who also live there and corroborate these claims. I'll definitely not be requesting an in-person viewing for this place. Private balcony or not, if this address ever pops back up in my StreetEasy feed.